If just 4 years ago I told you that there would be competing dates for new content in the ARPG space, you would look at me like I was crazy. You'd be like, Boardman, what are you talking about? And I tell you, oh, there'll be so many titles out that a lot of them will be launching new content on the same days. Again, you'd be like, nah, impossible, not gonna happen. Those games would need to release and they just keep getting postponed. And yet, fast forward to today, and here we are with some of the biggest titles and the top ARPGs having new content come out on exactly the same weekends. Now, this is where we have to ask ourselves, are these companies doing it on purpose? Are the big dogs trying to overshadow the little dogs? Is GGG, with its launch date of April 4th, compared to last Epoch's date of April 2nd, which has been postponed now to the 17th, trying to financially ruin and make EHG have little success to fall out of the category that they compete in? Well, let's dive into it a bit and find out what we can and see if this really is David versus Goliath, companies just being petty with each other, or just a complete misunderstanding and accident altogether. And we'll ask the simple question, does it even matter if they release on the same day? Let's find out. So I believe the best place for us to start is, was this a complete accident, or was this purposely designed in order to overshadow last Epoch and try and put it in financial ruin? Now, I'm going to start off with a few points here. I don't think that this is actually a huge deal. I think that both games are going to get played plenty. However, the point can be made on several of these subjects, including the fact that EHG could lose out on financial support because of the close proximity of the launch dates. And with that in mind, I do feel like it is in the best interest of EHG not to have a launch date at the same time as a high-profile game, because they are completely dependent upon people buying supporter packs for the future development of the game. And with that in mind, I do believe that this was a purposefully intended consequence of what GGG was trying to do by having its launch date put on the same weekend as last Epoch. And I'll kind of go through some of the proof, but the biggest factors and what we'll start with is what they're actually releasing in these next updates. Last Epoch is updating a huge patch. In this, we're going to have endgame updates. The Monolith of Fate is getting upgrades. We're going to have the unique woven echoes. We're going to have the woven faction tree. We're going to have dungeon improvements. We have the complete Sentinel overhaul, along with some new skills or reworked skills. We have the tomes and cemeteries. You have champion enemies and champion affixes and new champion uniques. The endgame crafting additions. You will now be able to craft on idols. You will be able, with some new runes in the game, be able to re-roll the exalted affix on exalted items, which is really cool. You'll have new endgame bosses. We have also the 𝐒𝐰𝐢𝐴BAROTH coming. So there are tons and tons and tons of changes in last Epoch, which does make sense as it's been about 9 months since the last update, so you're getting a ton of content. However, if we jump over to 0.2 for Path of Exile 2, we can see they don't have nearly the same amount of new content coming. They have some new ascendancy classes coming. They have some changes and new choices in the Atlas passive tree. They only have 2 new uniques, or at least that's all they've teased so far, and then some quality of life things along with some extra additional support gems. Really not that much coming along with some quality of life things in 0.2. Now, they may have more that they're going to tease as you get closer to the launch date, which again is only a couple of weeks away, so I wouldn't expect too much more. But it is kind of crazy that with not so much content coming out that they would push this so close to EHG, and it really makes me feel like they did it purposely, competitively, and to really try to overshadow last Epoch's launch. Now, like I said, last Epoch did delay its launch by a couple of weeks. We're going to go over what the reasoning for that is. A lot of people speculated that had to do with the fact that GGG had made its launch date so close to last Epoch's, and they pretty much admit such in this post, where Judd, the director of EHG, does comment and says, "Hello travelers, We've recently learned that our friends in the ARPG space have chosen a release date just a couple of days after ours, which would divide the player base and hinder the success of Season 2 launch. Last Epoch is a smaller studio in this space that looks towards each of its launches as a way to continue to sustain the studio financially and work on things we are most passionate about. Again, outside of the original small box price that you have to pay to get Last Epoch, there is no pay to win in the game, which is arguable in the Path of Exile 1. In Path of Exile 2, you don't have any of that, or at least not yet. And in Last Epoch, you only have supporter packs that are purely cosmetic to keep the game afloat. For instance, just one thing in game, in Path of Exile, you have to actually buy stash tabs with real money. In Last Epoch, you can just buy it with in-game gold that you can earn, and it's relatively cheap, meaning within just a few levels of leveling up your character, you can already afford the first stash tab, which is crazy. You can buy it before you even need it. Now, it is with a heavy heart that they're forced to move the release date of Season 2, Tomes of Erased, to April 17th, so it is a 2-week delay. And as we had just launched it, we invite our community to help spread the word, which is what we're doing while talking about how we just don't really approve that GGG did this. Now, like I said, I don't think that it's a huge deal in terms of player count. I think players will play both. Those that get bored with Path of Exile 2 will eventually come and try out the new content in Last Epoch, and vice versa. Me, myself, that is a Last Epoch main. I will find myself, trying out to see just how PoE 2 feels after its new content comes. So with that in mind, do you approve of this? Are you against it? Do you think it will affect it at all? Are you happy that the dates are a little bit more separated now? And of course, will you even be playing Last Epoch when it launches Season 2 on April 17th? And if so, let me know what character you're going to play. I will be starting as a Sentinel. It did get that rework, and I am super pumped for it. With that, stay safe and have a good one, travelers.